Welcome back to Briefing with the Chief. This is a quick Chief's Briefs with your host, Patrick Jordan here. I wanted to debunk a narrative that is now being used to discredit ICE. And I draw from my experience, my 38 years in law enforcement, particularly the correctional side. When as an executive, I worked in our corrections in LA County for 5 years. Now you can catch me on X at LASD Jordan, where all of our videos are posted. You can also find this short also on YouTube at Briefing with the Chief. You can find it on Rumble, same name, Briefing with the Chief, and you can also find it on YouTube. We have a YouTube page. I'm sorry, Facebook page. You can find it there as well. Now, hey, on this one, I wanted to talk about this narrative that's out there that the detention facilities are inhumane and people are not getting medical treatment and people are dying because of it. And it's a narrative that's been out there for a couple of weeks, and I decided to talk about it because it's a dishonest narrative. Anybody that runs a detention facility, there are systems, there are regulations, there are rules that you have to follow, and there are regiments of inspection of those facilities to make sure that they're up to snuff. And there's a lot of great medical professionals that work in these facilities as well. And we have senators and people in the House of Representatives and politicians, other politicians and media people that are defaming the good men and women working in these facilities, including the medical professionals. And we got one of them. He's Senator Padilla from California. Let's listen to his video.
32 people died while in ICE custody last year, and at least 8 more have died in the first 7 weeks of this year. The numbers are a big increase from prior years. Secretary Noem, yes or no, do you care enough about the human rights of the men, women, and children in your custody to improve the conditions as required by the courts?
Yes, absolutely. We adhere to our federal detention standards, which are higher than virtually all state and local detention standards. We provide medical care to all of our detainees. We continue to do that. You talk about when we have unfortunate situations where individuals have passed away.
I believe my own eyes when I saw firsthand the poor conditions in which people were treated when I visited the detention center in California City. Maintaining basic standards should not require court orders. The deplorable conditions at facilities across the country are the result of Secretary Noem's failed leadership. Secretary Noem, you should resign, or the president should fire you, or the House should vote to impeach.
Okay, this is nonsense. Now let's start with his first premise, the increase in deaths in detention facilities for ICE. When you increase the number of people that you're going to deport, when you go from deporting nobody to deporting hundreds of thousands, guess what? You're going to have more people in custody, which means you're going to have a higher number of deaths, which we're going to get into in a minute. So his first premise is a dishonest narrative. It's gaslighting. It's suggesting that something's wrong that there's not wrong. The other thing that happens, and I know this from my own correctional experience, is ACLU and others regularly sue correctional agencies to seek court oversight over them. And sometimes they get that oversight and sometimes they don't. Just because there's a lawsuit and a judge interested doesn't mean that these facilities are not being operated correctly. So, and he knows this. Now, here's the other thing. He's saying that he's saying, I saw it with my own eyes. I don't believe the man at all. I don't believe him because here's the first thing. If you want to believe that guy, then he would have been honest about the percentages of people dying at the very beginning of his statement. He would have acknowledged that more people are in custody, therefore more people will likely die. He didn't do that. So this was a fundraiser for him. This was to mobilize his base. This was to discredit ICE without sharing all the facts. And today's brief, we're going to talk a little bit about all the facts. Now let's go with an article out of KTLA. This is one that was printed in a Los Angeles newspaper, and it talks about a family devastated after a man dies while in ICE custody at El Delento detention facility in California. It's a large one in California. And they suggest that he was requesting medical treatment and didn't get it, and the conditions are bad, and he's dead because of them. Now, after a death happens with ICE, they're required, they put something out within 2 days to give preliminary information, partially to debunk the negative information that rolls out in articles like this. And then within 90 days, they have to do something else, which we'll get into in a minute. But first, let's address the article here. So what the initial 2-day statement they put out on a news website. So they'll put out regular updating the news on events that happen involving ICE. And since this hit the news, they responded with a document. And so their response to this is, criminal illegal alien passes away in California hospital. Arbuto Gunterres Reyes, 48, a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of inflicting corporal injury on a spouse, died in ICE custody February 27th at Victor Valley Global Medical Center in Victorville. He was pronounced dead at about 1 in the morning after being hospitalized with chest pains and shortness of breath. Now, here's the thing. This is what people need to realize. They're picking up illegal aliens. Many of these illegal aliens do not get regular medical care. They don't have medical insurance. They're not going to the doctor to get checkups. They're not getting preventative medicine. And when you go out and the class of people that you're picking up have not received preventative medicine, the likelihood that they would have problems, unknown problems, because in his particular case, they interviewed him. He didn't say that he had a problem when he came into custody, because he didn't know that he had a problem, right? Or if he did know, he didn't say anything. He started developing problems a few days later. They noticed the problem and they sent him to the hospital, and he died in the hospital. And so let me read this statement by ICE because it's really important. So they said the family said he didn't get medical treatment. He absolutely did get medical treatment. He absolutely did get medical treatment. And he probably got better medical treatment than he would have on the streets. Because remember, he doesn't have insurance. Here's the other thing about these in custody deaths. A lot of people come in and they're in really fragile medical condition. And the first medical treatment that they probably received in months, if not years, is when they come into custody. And they receive treatment from correctional medical staff. But they still come in with those conditions that had been undetected at the time, and many times are detected by the staff, and they end up in the hospital, and some of them die. In this case, this guy did. But ICE is committed to ensuring that all those in custody reside in safe, secure, and humane environments. Comprehensive medical care is provided from the moment the individual arrives throughout the entirety of their stay. All people in ICE custody receive medical, dental, mental health intake screening within 12 hours of arriving in a facility. Now, some of these folks, they come from like a jail or a prison, and they were getting medical treatment there as well. And they come over to ICE and they get medical treatment again when they come into ICE's custody. All people in ICE custody receive it. That's all right. I already said that. Full medical assignment, and they get a full medical assessment within 14 days of entering ICE custody or arrival at a facility. Access to medical appointments within 24 hours, and they have 24-hour emergency care. At no time during detention is a detainee alien denied medical care. So they debunk the article, as they should. And this is consistent with all correctional environments. The notion that they're getting horrendous care, or they're kept in inhumane conditions, is an exaggeration on the part of Senator Padilla. Now you're probably saying, "Are you calling Senator Padilla a liar?" Yeah, I am calling him a liar. But let's go on. let's go on to the next item. So after a person dies within 90 days, ICE has to put out a death report. Now, we did this in the correctional facility that I was involved in. We did an assessment within 30 days, and we followed up with a 90-day report so we can understand what happened. And ICE does the very same thing. They do a complete review within 90 days. They have to then put out a report. Now, they don't always put out a medical examiner's report. If you go to this website, and all you have to do is just Google ICE detention deaths, and this brings you to this website, and you can go and you look at by year which reports are submitted. Now, in 2026, it's all the reports that were submitted at the beginning of 2026. So you'll see some 2025 deaths, but that means they died within 90 days of of the change of the year, and so those reports then get reported. The full reports just get reported in 2026. Now, of the ones reported in 2026, there were 14 deaths reported. 10 appeared to be of natural causes. So I read all of them, and 3 were from suicide deaths, and 1 was a suspect who ran away from ICE and got hit by a car. So because they tried to detain him and he ran away, that's considered a detention, and he was hit by a car and he passed away. And that's reported on this website too. So one of the things that I noticed as I read through all of these is a lot of these folks came in, like I said, with very fragile health conditions. And think about it. If you're not getting medical help and you're living on the streets, or you're going from job to job, you're not taking care of yourself. And some of them are older. They've been in the U.S. for a long time. And you can see this is what the reports look like as the producer goes through some of these shorts. But I pulled up some of them. And here's one case. This is Mr. Cruz, Yanez Cruz. He was 68 years old. So he's 68 years old. He's coming into the facility. He likely has not had regular medical checkups. He was from Honduras, and he was arrested on November 16th, 2025, and was served with a notice to appear. And his he was denied obviously residency status, and so he had to leave the country. And they picked him up in Calexico, California. Upon arrival, so this is upon arrival, Mr. Cruz underwent intake screening with a comprehensive medical assessment. So upon arrival, he got screening. So Padilla is saying they don't get medical treatment or medical assessment. That's simply wrong. Mr. Cruz initially reported no chronic medical or medical health conditions, though mildly elevated high blood pressure was noted. Over the following weeks, he sought medical attention for persistent heartburn, coughing, and intermittent gastritis, receiving symptomatic treatment and dietary advice from the nursing staff. So he's gotten problems as he's staying in custody, and he's going to the nurses. The nurses are monitoring him and giving him advice on what to do and how to change this. Despite recurring complaints of acid reflux and esophageal pain, his vital signs remained generally stable. So they're looking at the issues, but they're checking his main vital signs, and they were stable. So he was allowed to stay there with a slight elevation of blood pressure and no referral to a higher level provider was made until his symptoms worsened. So when his symptoms worsened, he got greater medical care. So here, keep this in mind. This was probably somebody who did not have this level of medical treatment on the outside before he was detained. And now, any complaint, he gets to go to a medical staff because they're on scene, they're on location. So he came into custody. What did he say? He came into custody. Let's see here. I'm looking at it now. But on January 5th, 2026, Mr. Cruz presented with an acute chest pain. He had no abnormalities to the skin appearance and the heart and the lung exam. Registered nurses administered additional medications and instructed Mr. Cruz to return to the clinic if symptoms persisted and worsened. His condition deteriorated that evening with new onset of nausea and vomiting and abdominal pain. And they did electrical cardiogram result, elevated pulse, and low blood pressure. And he was shipped off to the hospital. He went to John F. Kennedy Memorial Hospital for advanced care. Mr. Cruz was diagnosed with congestive heart failure and non-ST segment elevation myocardial infarction, a heart attack. So this is a guy who came into custody. He had congenital heart disease. You don't develop congenital heart disease in 2 weeks. It's something that you've had over a long time, but it didn't present. This is congenital heart disease is a killer for people who are not getting regular medical treatment. This is something that could easily be detected had he had medical treatment all along on the outside. But getting basic care in custody, they had to see some of these symptoms before it presented to the point where he was sent to the hospital. But once he was there, he had a heart attack despite intensive treatment and plans for surgery. So they're planning on giving him surgery. they found they had a heart attack and they were going to give him surgery, but he passed away before the surgery could happen. So to me, this looks like the nurses and the doctors were monitoring this stuff. As it got worse, he got sent to the hospital, and but he still passed away. Now I did look another one up on this one, and this one, it was interesting because the person is 54 years old, which is relatively young. It's Mr. Garcia, but his case was interesting because I think there was 3 like this. Maybe it was 2. He had withdrawals. He came in fine. He looked okay. And it's his name is, if you want to look him up on this thing, is Mr. Garcia Alves. Entered the United States without permission and without patrol. He came in 2007. But let's get to his medical stuff. So the synopsis of the event: on October 15th, 2025, at approximately 4:18 a.m., a registered nurse completed Mr. Garcia's initial medical assessment. So he was assessed, and he said he didn't have any problems. He appeared okay, but within 2 hours, he started presenting a different medical situation, and they put him in a medical observation ward. So he's closely supervised by nurses. By 11 o'clock in that morning, it was just before 11, his symptoms got worse and he started getting tremors, and it looked like it was withdrawals is what he was going through, alcoholic withdrawals. And he acknowledged that he drank 2 pints of alcohol a day. So he's starting to go through withdrawals. So remember I said some of these folks come into custody, they got fragile health conditions because of the lifestyle they lived, and there's a very good chance he could have easily died on the streets from this. But he comes into custody. He's going through withdrawals. They immediately send him to a hospital. So so he came in at 6 in the morning. By 4 o'clock that night, he's already heading to the hospital. And now his condition continues to get worse, and he ultimately dies from this condition at the hospital. And that took a few days, so it's not like it happened right away. So the hospital was intervening, trying to treat him, and he passed away. So this notion that ICE is inhumane, that ICE doesn't care for the folks that are in their custody, that ICE is not giving them professional medical treatment, that ICE doesn't care, is just plain wrong. And the data shows it, and the reports show it. Beyond Mr. Padilla's, what he saw, what I'm looking at is clear documentation that ICE is doing their job. And that's it. That's for today's Chief's Brief. Thank you for joining me again, and remember to share this one around for folks, because the negative narrative that's out there, so like, share, and comment, and subscribe to my channel, Briefing with the Chief. And thank you for joining me again today. Amanda, you can take it away.